We are just over a month away from the NBA draft, and reports are beginning to leak out regarding what teams are interested in who as the pack begins to separate at the NBA Combine. In this video, I want to break down a particular name that seems to be mentioning in connection to the Sixers, as well as discuss the outlook for this draft pick for the Sixers. I do want to talk about the conversations regarding the likelihood of the Sixers trading it and what I believe for the mindset. But for this video specifically, I want to jump right into Devin Carter, and I'm going to start with this mock draft from Jonathan Wasserman, who is one of the premier NBA draft coverage, and he mocks Devin Carter to the Sixers with the 16th pick. Devin Carter is a 6'3", 195 guard out of Providence, and he writes that Carter is one of the best two-way guards in the draft. He can come into an established 76ers backcourt and give good minutes with the second unit. During his junior season, he averaged 19.7 points and 3.6 assists per game, and capped his college career with 27 points and 8 rebounds against a very talented Marquette team. So to dive into a little bit more of these stats for what Carter brings to the table, he does have a little bit of an interesting track record that he started off in South Carolina, spent his freshman year there before transferring to Providence, seemed to add levels to his development year in and year out. And what to me stands out the most in his final year of this junior season, 19.7 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, which is incredibly impressive for a guy that is a 6'3" guard. Still 3.6 assists per game, 1.8 steals, 1.0 block. Shot 37.7% from beyond the three-point arc while launching 6.8 attempts per game. I love the volume there. There is a lot to like about this guy. When kind of describing his play, looking at what I think he's kind of modeled out of, he reminds me a lot of Cason Wallace, who's making his impact felt with the Thunder. Still a guy that's very young there. See a little bit of like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in his style of play, but he's very defensive-oriented. That he is a guy that covers so much ground over the course of the game that you will feel him pop off the screen when watching a game. He plays with energy, he plays with effort, and he's not afraid of the big moment. That he will take some big shots and hit some crucial three-pointers for this Providence team this year. To dive into a couple more of his strengths, these, of course, written by Jonathan Wasserman as well. He writes that defense and rebounding is his number one strength, writing, "It's rare for a 6'3" guard to average anywhere close to 8.7 rebounds and 1 block a game. Competitive drive, springs, and instincts contribute to Carter's outlier shot blocking and rebounding numbers. Defensively, Carter combines a suffocating, disruptive mix of quickness, anticipation, and intensity. Opposing guards struggle to shake him or separate. He's tough fighting through screens and recovers quickly. So I would put this as his number one strength. When I'm thinking about what the impact could be for Devin Carter, it's right away on the defensive side of the ball. And that is something that is appealing. I do think when kind of nourishing a young prospect and helping them to find their true path in the NBA, that is the best way to do it. That you find one defining trait and then add from there. The Golden State Warriors are an organization which I think do a very nice job, and I'll use Jonathan Kuminga as an example, or even Brandon Pachevsky, who went through a similar thing this year. For Kuminga, it started off as just go play defense, just focus on this guy, then all of a sudden add a little bit more. Now you're competing on the offensive glass harder. Now we have a couple shots for you to carve out in the flow of the offense, and all of a sudden he looks like this beginning to be a polished player. I think Devin Carter could go about a similar route, and frankly, I would like the Sixers to manage things a little bit that way. That I do think you say, go guard a guy for a couple minutes per game, just be disruptive defensively, and then you can continue to add from there. But to dive into some of his strengths as well, that ball screen offense, Wasserman writes that Carter was highly efficient in ball screen situations with his ability to change speeds, fool defenders, and use crafty footwork, hit unconventional shots, and set up teammates as a passer. He was far more effective getting to the basket and finishing than he was pulling up for jump shots. Carter ultimately has strong command with his pacing and handle to create advantages and quality looks in ball screens there. So to add to that a little bit, one of the interesting things I think about his game, for starters, I've talked about the three-point percentage, the way that he is a willing shooter from deep. He also kind of defaults into a little bit of like a post game when he gets down low. There were a couple different situations I saw him in this year where he kind of would back his way into a guy, which is very rare for a player for his size. He plays far bigger than he is. That if you ask me to just guess his height without knowing he was 6'3", I'd put it much closer to like the 6'6" kind of range. That he does look like he is bigger than he seems out there. And by the way, tested off the charts athletically at the NBA Combine. I believe led for vertical jump and a few other things that he did just pop off the page, and that is unexpected based on watching him play on the court. So to hit on the final strength that Wasserman writes, he says shot making. That Carter made a big jump this year with his shooting, finishing the season with 84 made threes after hitting only 35 last season in the same number of games. While he became a threat to hit pull-ups and step-backs, Carter was more efficient making catch-and-shoot threes. That's a good sign since he'll be playing more of an off-ball role in the NBA. However, he does have an awkward release with a hitch, so teams will be watching him closely during a workout. I do buy the shot, that I don't think this is a fluke thing, and to pull up the stats once again, that it didn't pop out of nowhere completely. That yes, it did improve significantly this year, but he did take tangible steps to get there. That as a freshman, 26.7% from three, as a sophomore, 29.9% from three, and then this year, 37.7% from three. And to point it out exactly, we saw a very similar situation with Tyrese Maxey in the Philadelphia 76ers, where the book on Maxey, the reason that he fell to that 21st pick was that people didn't believe that he would be a good enough shooter at the NBA level. Well, flash forward a couple of years, and he is one of the more dynamic three-point shooters in the entire league. A guy that has been top 5 in three-point percentage in 2 of the last 3 seasons. It's impressive stuff, and that is a testament to a guy being willing to put the work in. I obviously don't have a feel for how Devin Carter is fully wired, but just on watching him play, he feels like a high motor, a high energy guy, a dude that cares, and I just don't quite see the hitch as that much notable as I think is being made out in this article here. But I did want to acknowledge some of the weaknesses here that were stated as well. So to list off these, talks about the positional tools. At 6'3", Carter doesn't possess a standout physical profile for a 2-guard. Scouts question how easily he'll be able to separate into clean jumpers and finishes against NBA defenders. Although Carter has some special defensive instincts, there is some hesitation projecting defensive upsides for an undersized 2-guard. Now, I do think this is a fair critique here, but where I will push right back is I think he's that special defensively. That I think when you talk about guys that can make their impact felt, if they're good defenders, they're good defenders. And yes, in an ideal world, that he is a little bit bigger than he is, but that kind of ability to just come in and impact games. I mean, we're watching TJ McConnell change playoff games just by dogging Jalen Brunson, being all over him. I think Devin Carter is like that level of pest, and that the catch and shoot three is all I really need offensively. That as far as creating separation and taking guys off dribble, that's not going to be in the wheelhouse for Devin Carter likely ever, and certainly not as a rookie. So that's not something that raises some major red flags for me. As far as the other conversations here, the decision-making, Wasserman writes that Carter plays at a fast pace and seemingly has no shortage of confidence. That can translate to some bad shots, passes, decisions, and turnovers. 2.7 per game this past season. Also mentions mid-range scoring. Carter would have helped himself this year by making more mid-range shots. It's not as easy to get to the rim and finish there efficiently in the NBA as it is in college. Carter could use more effective in-between game as he shot underwhelming percentages on his 2-point jumpers, ball screen, pull-ups, and runners. So to this point here, I straight up don't care what Devin Carter shoots from the mid-range, and frankly, I think it's almost a good sign that he's essentially cut that out of his game. Now, obviously, you want the most polished player as possible, but when you think about what the role looks like in the NBA, it's going to be shooting threes, it's going to be attacking closeouts, and attacking the basket. That you're not going to be asking Devin Carter to go get you a bucket and win the game when push comes to shove and you're looking for a shot down the stretch. That the reality of the NBA is that mid-range shots have turned to superstar shots. That those are not for everyone. You have to be Joel Embiid. You have to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You have to be one of these guys ready to make that. And if you're not, be content spotting up from three or be willing to attack the basket. I think Carter has already turned that page in his book. Now, I did want to talk a little bit about the outlook for the draft pick as a whole. Because while I do want to dive into a lot of these draft prospects, we can't ignore that it is likely that the Sixers may trade this deal. And to get into the specifics of this, it is reported by Sam Vinici of The Athletic that the Sixers are seen league-wide as a candidate to trade the 2024 first-round pick. Now, my point being here, for starters, I understand the logic. I understand the Sixers team is in win-now mode, but I would like to have a little bit of a cautionary tale for this team. That do not trade this pick just to trade this pick. Now, granted, if the Chicago Bulls pick up the phone and say, we will give you Alex Caruso for the 16th pick, you absolutely do it right away. But the Chicago Bulls are a poorly run organization who seem dead set on maintaining their mediocrity, that they are fully in basketball purgatory and seem to have no plans of getting out. They have not traded a player since 2021, so I wouldn't fully expect that to be the case. So my point being here, that if the Sixers can find a way to improve their team and add a win-now role player, you do that. But if you do not see that option available, make a selection. Take even Devin Carter. And I will dive into some more names that I do want to get into watch. But Devin Carter, at this point in time, is at the forefront of my list. That it is rare that you have opportunities to bring in these young, talented players that have a chance to develop and be a part of your system. That when you look around at the Isaiah Joes of the NBA, who is exactly who he always has been, making high-level, impactful performances for this Thunder team. I get he's a bench player, a guy that only plays 12 to 15 minutes per game, but those are valuable, that he's effective in those minutes. And that was a guy who was drafted by the Sixers to be exactly what he has become. That it is rare that you have opportunities to bring in this type of young talent, and that matters in the short term and the long term. And again, I don't expect Devin Carter or whoever is selected with that 16th pick to make an immediate impact this year. But in the long run, you want to have guys developing. You want to have the Ricky Councils up next, the guys that are growing into the next generation of role players. That all of a sudden you don't have to give up assets to bring in these type of guys to impact winning when you're developing them on your own. So it is rare that they have this type of chance to bring in a high-level potential prospect. I think the Sixers should take it this year. That I get it. Obviously, these situations, the conversations, there will be plenty to be had for what the outlook is for that. But I don't think the Sixers should be rushing to trade this draft pick because they may not be picking in the 16th pick for quite some time past this. So let me know what you guys think as far as the outlook on the draft pick. Should they trade it? Should they make a selection? And what do you think of Devin Carter? Let me know where he ranks among your prospects and drop some comments for any other names you want me to dive into. I will be doing a few more leading up to this draft process. I'm sure there will be plenty of news coming out in the coming weeks regarding some situations surrounding this team. There tends to always be something with the Sixers. So appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in this video here. Once again, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button to keep the Sixers Digest family growing. Dropping a like to let me know you're listening and your comments for any draft prospects that you want to hear about. Appreciate you guys once again and talk next time. Peace.